Okay, so the first thing is I got to set the points across the quilt so that it knows where to quilt as I go across the quilt, because I want to leave out these blocks because later on I'm going to go back and do something in the block. So I'm just trying to stipple everywhere but through these blocks. So that is the first step. I've got to go set the points. I have a lot of bias nightmare over here, so I'm having to baby this fabric in when the time comes to get it in there. I tried to hang this quilt without floating it, but it made me want to cry. So I went back and floated it. Anyway, I'm slowly getting all the nightmare stuffed in there, and then I'll have to make adjustments when I'm done. But this is how you set the points. So I go up here. I've already set up my computer to be ready for when I'm setting the points. I can say OK, which it just set a point, or I can just tap the screen anywhere to set a point. I'm going to undo that because it's not anywhere where I want it. So I'm going to go up here to where my last seam was, plus the edge of my quilt, and I'm going to tap my screen and set a point. Then I'm going to go over here and start just tapping where the points need to be set so we know where that last row fell. That way when I start to sew the next row, it will know where to sew. I'm just going to get as many of these as I can so when I set that edge to edge in there, it knows where to go. Little buckleys everywhere along this, caused by the bias nightmare, but as it quilts I can slow the machine down and tell it feed those in. I'm not worried about it. I'm not keeping this quilt anyway. I'm just not. I'll be glad to be done with it. There's going to be a lot of ripping out because I learned a lot doing this quilt and I used it as a sample. There's a lot of stuff I would do different, but gotta undo that last one. But that's just the way it goes. Live and learn. And I am learning a lot, and I decided to use this as a sample because I always hated this quilt. Okay, this is just setting the outer boundary of where I want my Qbot to go. Again, this side is a nightmare, but this is the last 2 times I think I have to suck up some of this bias and get it in here. After this, I just bring this as far as my machine will quilt, and then this is not important, this bottom boundary, because it's not going to quilt down this far anyway, but I'm just setting points so that the machine knows that I can't go past that. Now I'm just going to set some up this way, and this is where it got off the other day when me and Debbie were doing it. Done. And if you look at the screen, it's asking me do I want to set a inner boundary, and I'm going to say yes because I don't want it to quilt inside these. Now I'm just going to test to see where the start place is, and it looks good. But anyway, then these inner boundaries I don't want it to quilt in because I'm going to use these to quilt something else when I'm done. So now I'm just going to go back and set the points here of them. Don't have to set very many, and if I had my laser I could be more accurate, but because I don't have my laser I can't be very accurate because I don't know exactly where my needle is going to fall. But hopefully soon I'll have my laser back. Then I just say done, and I say yes, I've got another one. So I just don't want it to quilt inside of these, the stipple, because I'm going to do something else with them. done? Yes, because I've got 2 more of these to do. Like I said, these are pretty square. They're not completely square, but I'm just doing a few points on the lines just to show where they lay, and then the machine will quilt up to them, tie off, move along. I'm not doing boxes around them like I was, and I've got to go undo all that mess I made earlier, but that's just another day. Another one, and I got one more. This one is going to be biased too because it was a mess last time when I was over here. I wasn't a very good quilter back then. And I say done, and this time I say no more interrupt boundaries. And if you look, you can see what the machine has done up there. It has laid down those boxes so I won't quilt it. I'm going to go back to the beginning. And I'm going to pick my pattern. And it's this stipple, but it's not the right size, so I'm going to modify it. I'm going to tell it I want to be 100% of what I was before. And then it's not lined up at the top, so I'm just going to move it up a little bit. Because that's what I just did, is draw those semi-red lines to where my other stuff is. So I'm going to get it up there. But as you can see, it's all in those things that I have laid down there, but in just a minute it won't be. When I think it looks good, I'm going to tell it that I want it to jump stitch, and then I want it to trim left, right, and the boundary, and I'm going to say OK. And then when I say done and go to this screen, it shows you where it's going to go, and it's not going to go inside those boxes. Then if I say move to start point and this doesn't go where I want to go, I have to do something else. It's good enough. I'm not going to mess with it. It's just a little bit out. I could come to the right, but what that means, I'm going to come a little bit to the right, but what that means is then it could go inside my purple boxes. But I'm going to modify it just a tiny bit and move it over, just so it's not quite so far out of the, because you never know, I might have pulled that fabric over. Anyway, then all I do, I've put new bobbin thread in there, is take my thread. Okay, that's acting fussy, so that's not good, because that should have just gone down and back up, not down and up. And sometimes that's that stitch regulator. Nope, that's not good either. That tells me that my stitch regulator has let go, and if it has, then it won't go across here right, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway. Everything's in position, and so now I just go up here to the Android and I tell it to go. Now I have to put everything down so I can baby this and just use my hands, and if I have to I can stop it and slow it down. That's a tie-off stitch that it does. Yesterday it sensed my hands in there too close in and it stopped, so they put some kind of new feature in somewhere. I don't know where it's at. Maybe the sewing machine itself. Okay, stop. I have a mess. Oh, stop.